crowd expected here later on in Thurles as well. Not initially, though, even though it's a double header. You've been waiting for weeks to talk about live hurling. And the first question I'm going to put to you is about football, because we have the footballers of Tipperary and Down getting ready to play in the Tailteann Cup in the next few minutes. You went on Morning Ireland just over a week ago and made these disparaging remarks about the Tailteann Cup. Why would you do that?
So we're here to talk about hurling. Now we're talking about Gaelic football.
Yep.
Did you hear the programme?
Donal is absolutely rattled straight off the bat. Straight off the bat, he's like, "What? Did you not hear the programme there? Like, it's hurling. It's hurling." I mean, to be fair, I do think there's an element to this that probably is somewhat staged. I think a few people were mentioning that on Twitter. I think, like, if you go back to the start and you look at Anthony Daly and Joe Canning's reaction, like, they're kind of laughing and smirking. I'm sure Donal probably got a word in the ear that, look, you know, Joanne Cantwell is going to press you here about the Tailteann Cup comments. I actually think this was set up specifically for Donal to apologise, because let's not forget the Tailteann Cup is a big competition in the GA. RTE are probably going to be showing the semi-finals and the final. GA Go and RTE, as we know, are very well connected. So I think this was the opportunity for Donal to apologise. And I think that's why Joanne Cantwell and why the RTE team probably put this to Donal. But Donal having absolutely none of it.
I did, yes.
Do you listen to it every week?
Yes.
What's the premise of it?
What's the premise of Hurling Nation? But that's regardless. You came out and you decided to talk about the Tailteann Cup and refer to it as a Grand National for non-runners. Or for also rounds. Why would you do that?
Were they happy to be in that? Are they happy to be in the Tailteann Cup?
But that doesn't really matter. They're happy to have.
What you're asking me?
Okay,
You're asking me what I said. First of all, we're here to talk about one of the best hurling days now that we have in hurling.
Yes.
Right. You can listen to me every Friday morning if you want, and just after 7:30. Okay.
Gets in his ad.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're asking me a question about what I actually said. I'm explaining to you what I said.
Well, you said it's a Grand National for all strands. You said, are they happy to be?
Not exactly what I said.
Sorry, it is. You said it's a Grand National. Well, tell us what you said then.
No, you were listening to it. You tell me.
Well, you said it's a Grand National for all strands.
Joanne, we're here to talk about hurling. And the next time you come ask me the questions, make sure you quote me correctly.
Well, then tell us the code. Was it not a Grand National for all strands?
You started. You didn't quote me correctly.
Come on, Joe,
the next time.
Do you know what this kind of reminds me of, to be honest with you? This is kind of like when you go out with the lads for a couple of points and one of the lads decides to bring his girlfriend along. And they start going back and forth. They have an argument in front of you, and it's kind of, bickering, beside each other and everything else. You're sort of awkward. You're looking at your mate laughing. Like, that's what Joe. Look at the face on Joe Canning there, and look at Anthony Daly. They are absolutely loving this. And this kind of does remind me. You go out for a couple of points. Your mate brings his missus along, and they go back and forth, and you're like, this is the most awkward thing ever, and it's the most silliest argument as well, because, like, Donal just isn't addressing, like, just admit that you made a mistake. You said the wrong thing about the Tailteann Cup. Like, let's call a spade a spade. I think a lot of what Donal said was right in terms of the Hurling Championship and the fact that Joe McDonagh gets no coverage and everything else. I agree with him about that. But I think, look, this is his opportunity right here to be like, do you know what? I was wrong. The Tailteann Cup is important. It is a big tournament. It's important for the likes of the sides in there. You look at the scenes when Carlow, for example, beat Wicklow. Limerick could possibly have a bit of a rejuvenation this year. You've got Antrim, who are looking very strong. This competition does mean a lot, in my opinion, to some of the so-called smaller counties.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's talk about the hurling.
No, first of all,
and about Thurles, right? It's a great day. Okay, I was coming in. I couldn't help driving through the square there this morning, right? Coming through, seeing all the different supporters around the place.
I love how Donal as well. He's this is like a politician's answer right here. He's just completely changing the subject. He's like, in fairness, I do think it is a strange time to actually bring it up at the same time. I thought maybe they would have mentioned this on the Sunday game, like the later show, like, or the Saturday game or something like that. Like, in some ways, you have to say fair play to Joanne. Like, she didn't bite down, and she literally kept standing up to Donal. And as much as Joanne Cantwell gets a lot of criticism, I actually think fair play to her here, because, like, she wasn't letting Donal go away with this at all. She could have just brushed it to the side very quickly and went along with Donal's deflection. But in fairness, she stuck to her guns. And to be fair, like, she comes across as a little bit annoying at the best of times when she's presenting. Like, she sort of butts in and doesn't let people speak, but she is very good at it. You have to give her credit, in fairness.
It's a real throwback to a knockout Munster Championship feel, even this week leading up into it, coming past Jimmy Doyle corner, one of the best ever hurlers that we saw playing there, right? couldn't but feel
Good old Jimmy Doyle, my great uncle. Many people probably didn't know that, but there's a fun fact.
feel good about it, right? So that today is a really great day for hurling, and we're just hopeful that those matches that we're going to see will match it. But very rarely the game of hurling lets us down. And just the last thing I'll say in that, in terms of what you were asking me earlier on,
Yes.
I've given most of my life, or a lot of my energy, or as much as anybody else, making the lot of hurlers, Gaelic footballers, and over the last couple of years, camogie players and ladies footballers, delighted to say it, to try and make their lot better. So I don't need any advice from anybody in that territory. Thanks very much.
Do you think secondary competitions are really important, including, say, the Tailteann Cup for footballers?
Of course, you must have secondary competitions. You want a proper development path where everybody can see a pathway all the way to the top of the game. There's no question there, Joanne. Listen at 25 to 8 on a Friday morning, and you might get a better feel for
He's
hurling.
promoted the Tailteann Cup better than anybody in the last week or two, I'd say. There's more people talking about it now.
Will we talk
Thanks
about
very
hurling?
much, Joe.
Will we talk about hurling? Let's talk
Hopefully.
about hurling in today's game.
In fairness, Joe Canning's actually probably right there. I think Donal probably has promoted the Tailteann Cup quite a lot. There's probably some people who are like, what is the Tailteann Cup? Like, what, you know, but to be fair, I do think the Tailteann Cup is quite known amongst football fans. There could be a lot of sort of hurling fans down south in the country maybe who aren't too familiar with the Tailteann Cup, don't have much of an interest in it. But that's fair enough. You know, there's plenty of fans around the country who don't have much of an interest in hurling, or also possibly in the Joe McDonagh Cup as well, in fairness. But yeah, like definitely an interesting take, you know, Joanne Cantwell and Donal going back and forth, things getting heated in the studio. Do you know what it is? I actually love to see this. You know, we need to see more of this on the Sunday game. You know, this was a bit of a throwback to Joe Brawley and Colm O'Rourke going back and forth, you know, being, you know, Michael Lester putting them on the back foot, like all this kind of crack between them. And I think this was great to see, absolutely great to see. And hopefully maybe this is a bit of a change now for the Sunday game where they're going to be a bit more controversial. They're going to, you know, speak about the things that the fans want to see. And in fairness, I actually thought this was great. Now, the interesting point of this conversation was obviously Joanne Cantwell was trying to get Donal to sort of address the comments that he made when he was speaking on RT Radio. In case you didn't hear, it's on 25 to 8 on a Monday morning. So you might have caught it yesterday if you haven't already. I mean, Donal, you mightn't have heard him say that, to be honest with you. He was pretty he was pretty coy about promoting his own show, in fairness. But what did he actually say on RT Radio? Because a lot of people probably don't even listen to the radio nowadays, in fairness. So we'll listen to it here in a second. But this tweet here from Indo Howlers, who says, Joanne, quoting Joanne, she says, "You said it's a Grand National for all Sarans, Donal. That's not exactly what I said. What he said on Monday, what he said on Morning Order on the 12th of May, it's a sort of Gaelic football Grand National for disappointed all Sarans." Let's listen to what
the Microwave Hurling Championship gets a little chance to breathe this weekend. The GA schedule has 2 provincial football finals and the start of the Tailteann Cup, which if you haven't, the Microwave Hurling Championship gets a little chance to breathe this weekend. The GA schedule has 2 provincial football finals and the start of the Tailteann Cup, which if you haven't heard of, it's a sort of Gaelic football Grand National for disappointed all-Sarans.
I think, do you know what it is? It's like, because he was saying even in that clip as well, that's not what I said. You know, if you listen to the show, that you'll see what I said, and then, but that's exactly what he said. That is exactly what he said. It was a master deflection there from Donal, who certainly did not want to be pressed, did not want to be discussed, or you know, on the matter. And as I said before, I mean, there was probably a certain element to this that was staged, but I don't think Donal's response was in any way staged, because if it was staged, he would have just put his hands up and said, yeah, you know, I probably said the wrong thing there. I think the Tailteann Cup is a great competition. And I think the whole point of this, to be honest with you, from an RTE perspective, was to put this whole topic to bed. But actually what's happened is it's just put, you know, flames on the fire and rubbed salt in the wounds completely. And the whole thing is just completely blown up. And Donal, after what he said about the Hurling Championship, you know, he got a lot of praise. When in the space of 24 hours, that reputation has gone right down the drain. We'll just run through some tweets in regards to the back and forth between Donal and Joanne Cantwell, because certainly a lot of people had their say on this sort of heated debate. So Connor Fortune says, Donal with an unmerciful chip on his shoulder. If you're going to knock the Tailteann Cup, at least have the balls to back it up on national TV. Hurling's not dying because of the lack of coverage. It's dying because people like him believe hurling is sacrosanct. I actually don't know what that word means, and above criticism. This person obviously has a higher level of intelligence than myself, which is probably not hard in fairness. I don't know if hurling's not dying because of lack of coverage. It's dying because of people like him. I think that's a little bit harsh, to be honest with you. I just think that the God's honest truth is that when you look at the Joe McDonagh Cup, a lot of the teams that are in that competition are probably predominantly football counties. Like you look this season, I think other than Offaly, Offaly are, probably more so a hurling county. But again, they have a great football history as well. So you could argue that's quite split. You look at Kildare, you look at Down, you look at, Laois, who are in there. Laois, to be fair, probably more of a hurling county now than a football county. You look down through the lower tiers, the majority of them counties are hurling counties. So the majority of their own supporters, look, those counties do have a big backing of, or a big sort of, not a big fan base, but they do have small pockets within every county that are huge hurling folk. Same here in Dublin, in my opinion, which is more of a football county. But like, I just don't think the sort of interest is there, in the Joe McDonagh, in the Christy Ring from neutrals, and I don't think it's there probably even from certain sections of supporters from those specific counties. Now, does that mean that those games should not be shown? Absolutely not, because at the end of the day, the only way you're going to gauge interest, the only way you're going to get fans interested is actually by showing those games on the TV, showing the highlights and everything else. This might be a conversation for another day, but I honestly do believe they should combine the Christy Ring and the Joe McDonagh. I don't think the levels between the two are as big as what we've seen in previous years. I know Kildare got relegated this year, but you've seen how competitive they were in Division 2A of the Hurling League. And, Meath have come up and done quite well. You see the progression of some sides in the Christy Ring at the minute. So I think if you actually combine the Christy Ring and the Joe McDonagh, maybe had straight knockout or had a sort of group stages style tournament, a bit like the Tailteann Cup, I actually think then there'd be more interest, in my opinion, because you'd have more teams, the competition would mean more, and there wouldn't be as many lower tiers, and you'd also be given more exposure to the Christy Ring Cup counties as well. But I don't know, that's a conversation for another day, but I'd be curious to know what people think about that. So if we want to remind ourselves of exactly what Donal did say on RT Radio a couple of weeks ago, these were the exact quotes of what he said. He said, the hurling championship gets some room to breathe this week. The GA schedule has 2 provincial finals and the start of the Tailteann Cup, which you haven't heard of it, is sort of a Gaelic football Grand National for disappointed also-rans. This means that we've one big hurling game at tea time on Saturday and available for viewing where. Yeah, it's just not true though, is it? I mean, it's like, obviously the teams who are in the Tailteann Cup, there's a lot of them that probably don't want to be there, the likes of Down, Meath. I think counties who've big history and would probably have aspirations for more than the Tailteann Cup. Offaly maybe in the same bracket, Cavan as well. But at the end of the day, those counties have ended up there for a reason. And in some ways, it's a chance to put things right. It's a chance to win a trophy. It's a chance to build confidence, and I think there's a lot of good positives that could come from the Tailteann Cup. We haven't quite seen it with Westmeath this year, in fairness. We were expecting them to kick on. But if Meath go and win the Tailteann Cup, let's say, like there'll be a feel-good factor around Colm O'Rourke and Meath going into the 2024 GAA season. So that's why I just think it is a good competition, and there is interest there from neutrals, and there are some big footballing counties and big powerhouse counties who are in that competition. Just looking at some other tweets and comments here. Shane Brophy says, Donal is just tiresome at this stage. Time for RTE to move him on. I disagree. I actually quite like Donal. I think he says it how it is. I think we need more people like him, in my opinion. He's not always right, but in my opinion, I like people with controversial comments, who say it how it is, who say things outside the box, the likes of Joe Brawley. Colm O'Rourke, to be fair, came out with sometimes too many controversial stuff, and some of his comments about Dublin down the years did actually quite annoy me. But at the same time, he is controversial. He gets us talking. And I think that's what we want to see when we watch TV. All this sanitized, robotic answers, too much to statistics and all this crack. Like, we don't want to see that. We want to see the base. We want to see people on the back foot. We want to see controversies, in my opinion. Stephen Poacher says the GA public must be soft, completely staged, the whole Cantwell and Donal nonsense. Does anyone actually believe for 1 second that they didn't know pre-show what was going to happen? RTE has become an utter sham of a show, joke shop, lose the analysis and just show the games. I think there was probably some element of truth in terms of, I think it was part of the plan. I think think everyone was probably briefed on the topic. But I think Donal Óg's response, as I said before, I don't think that was staged. I think he probably went a bit rogue there, and I don't think that was the plan. Otherwise, I don't think Joanne Cantwell would have asked him. I think the RT producers and everyone else would say, look, just don't mention this. We don't want, we don't want all the hype, or maybe they did. Maybe this is planned. Who knows? GA League Table says Donal Óg is actually a bit of an arsehole, isn't he? There we go. Donal Óg not getting the praise, or not getting definitely being criticised quite heavily here. Brendan Boylan says, just when you think Donal Óg couldn't be any more of a self-entitled, self-important snob, I'm no fan of JC, Joe Canning, but fair play to, or Joanne Cantwell actually, he means, but fair play to her here. RT really need to get proper pundits and not media darlings. Yeah, in fairness to Joanne Cantwell, she gets a lot of criticism, but I think she, she didn't back down, in fairness. So there we go. So yeah, let me know your opinions anyway on the sort of heated debate between Joanne Cantwell and Colm O'Rourke. It definitely got heated, and as I said before, I think we need to see more of that in the GA. We need to see more of that on RTE GA Go, because I think that is what, as fans, as supporters, and maybe for pundits or ex-players who watch RTE as well, that's what you want to see. That is what you want to see. That's what sells, in my opinion. But yeah, look, what was Donal Óg right in what he said? Absolutely not. Of course he wasn't. I think there was some element of truth to what he said about the Hurling Championship. But I think, look, in terms of the games being showed on GA Go, it's happening about football and hurling. That's just how it is now, unfortunately. That's just today's society. Nobody agrees with it, but there's nothing really we can do. I think football at times is certainly favoured more so than hurling. But again, that's because of the demographic. That's because there is more football fans in the country than there is hurling fans. When you look at the sort of counties and everything else, you like when you think about it, you've got the 5 counties down in Munster who are all hurling counties, you would say, and Limerick, Clare, Cork, Tipperary, and Waterford. In fairness, Tipperary had a bit of a rise in football for a couple of seasons. Cork and Clare have made strides in football, and Cork do have a big football base in their county. It's obviously a big county. You look at Galway, probably a predominantly hurling county, but again, a huge influx of football fans in that county as well. Kilkenny, obviously, 100% hurling county there. And the round of Leinster, like, you've pockets of Dublin fans who are big into their hurling, but again, mostly a football county, and probably the same around Leinster, Ulster, and Connacht. So, like, it's not a dig at the Hurling Championship. I think the Hurling Championship is actually more exciting. It's more entertaining. There's more games that matter, and it's a better product. But the interest, I think, probably just isn't the same as opposed to the Football Championship, which is a shame, because I think the Hurling Championship is actually a better competition. But yeah, curious to know your opinions, your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know who do you think was in the right and who was in the wrong here. And yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't already. We recently hit 4,000 subscribers, so absolutely delighted about that. So yeah, if you could subscribe, that would be absolutely great. My name is Aaron, and we will speak all again soon.